the sake of people being gone and sick and yada yada. Let me get some airflow going on in here, so I'm going to close the door because that was stuck in there. Really good. Okay, logistics. What I have on the screen right now is twofold. I do have these copied off, and I am going to hand them around the room in just a second. I did tell you guys that with us doing things a little bit differently, and you guys on Khan Academy a lot, and me having to be out, etc., I did make a practice final for you, which remember is only on chapter 9A, which is the sequence and series stuff, and chapter 12, the limit stuff from Khan Academy. I made you practice finals. I'm going to pass out, but anybody who is not live here with us today, you still have this online that you don't have to print out if you don't want to, but you can. But you have this that you can access and that you can work on paper and still submit like scans of. People here are going to bring it the day of the final on Friday and just give me whatever they were able to finish, because Friday, May 20th, that's in 2 days, is the last day for makeup work, late work, etc., and the last day to turn in things. So you can bring this with you to the final. You should, if you do any work on it. You should bring this practice final to the final, because it is worth up to how many points? People at home can scan, but people that are live, you're going to need to actually bring it to me. It's worth, oh my goodness, I lost it. I'm so sorry. Up to 5% of your final. Meaning a 78 can become an 83, a 57 can become a 62, a 99 can become a 104. It's worth good old +5 on a 100-point test. Cool? I will talk about this a little bit more once I pass it out. I can pass it out right now, but we can talk about a few things like how long the final is going to be, exactly what's going to be on it, etc., etc. But could this be an excellent way of using your time today? The answer is a resounding yes. This could be an excellent way to spend your time today. You also have, I will cover like big questions at the end, just kind of maybe like do a post-it, write down. No, we need it right now? Okay, go ahead, Johnny, what's that?
What if I've already started my
Cool, then whatever, if there's an extra copy, pass it over to David, and I will steal one from Wyatt. There you go. Okay. We can talk about this since you guys have it in your hands now, right? Okay, so this practice final is how many questions? 45, right? The actual final itself, I believe, is 35. So it's 10 questions shorter, which 10 questions aren't on there. I don't know. But your exact final is coming from this, just the numbers are different. And it's shorter. Does that make sense? Cool. So if you know this thing, I have kids every now and then ask me, like, if you know this perfectly, if you know it's A, B, B, C, 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 D, 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 I'm just kidding. That's not at all what it is. That's not going to help you at all. But if you know how to do the 45 questions, that final should be a breeze. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Have you had people like actually try to memorize the key?
Well, the problem is it's not the same. It's not the same because all the I can calculate new algorithm values, which means like all the answer choices are different. But have I had, especially during COVID, kids try to do the whole we took it in the next period and it's weird because she's doing Google Forms, and yes, I have. Or actually, to be honest, I've seen kids with multiple choice things written down making up things online for different classes. And I'm like, oh, that's smart. Stupid. Anyway, Johnny.
Is there a Jamboard access to like 12.1, 0.2?
There aren't notes. It was Khan Academy. It wasn't Jamboard. It wasn't Jamboard. It was Khan Academy.
Are you going to put like different types of questions from like the same lessons in the actual final? Or is like just
I'll let you work through the final and ask me questions. Like for me to tell you, like I've made that for you to know what the final will be. Does that make sense? And the final comes from those exact questions, just with different numbers, and I took out 10 of them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Brendan.
Are both things on web assignment optional?
You mean the homeworks that were your homeworks for chapter 12?
Or the bonus homework?
Oh, okay. You want to talk about all the logistics. No, don't worry. Let's just talk through it all, because I was going to do that for everybody since I wasn't here on Monday. So guys, let's keep talking about logistics. So this is the practice final due on Friday, the day of the final. I'll be collecting it right before you take your final. You are allowed to use your calculator on your final. But once again, I would just challenge you to be able to do it without your calculator, like to understand it so that the calculator is just a help and it's not a crutch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So coming back, we're just talking about end of the semester end of the semester things. So you guys do have, as the syllabus has always said, the opportunity that the final exam, if it's higher, only if it would help, it will count as itself. But it can also count for replacing some score as long as it's not from the end of the semester assignments. So your final exam cannot replace you turning in your textbook, it cannot replace tutoring hours, and it cannot replace itself. Anyway, so these are the things it cannot replace as in your lowest score. However, everything else can be replaced, okay? And you guys just need to tell me what you want me to try to replace, and if you don't turn this in, I won't replace anything. So if you have a 0, I'm like, well, sucks to be you. You should have told me to replace it with your final, because some points is always better than no points. But you can look at your different categories. Maybe you have like a whole note check that's missing. Maybe you have a test correction that's missing. Those count more than like a single 5-point homework. So you can kind of look at things like that. If you want to ask me advice, feel free to. I'll be here today after school, tomorrow, and Friday. So you guys have this and this and this and this and this. Brendan was asking me some questions about Chapter 12 stuff. So Chapter 12 stuff, you guys had required watching all the videos and doing the practice for 12.1 and 12.2 and attaching scans of those just to show me that you did that. You also had a required WebAssign homework. This was technically over like a week and a half. It was a week and a half of 3 different class periods and like 8 different days. There were only 2 homeworks and 2 sets, actually 3 sets of Khan Academy. That was your homework. The only thing that is optional / bonus from this whole thing, Chris, make sure you're listening to all these announcements, is this final homework, because I figured, I'm like, some of you, if you just start this homework today, it's probably better you do the practice final. You know what I mean? But some of you have bad homework scores. It's probably better for you to be spending time on this to make up a homework than doing something from Chapter 8. You know what I mean? Now, if you have a lot of missing homeworks, well, you should probably make up as many as you can by, according to my email, what's the last day for late work, makeup work, unless you get a special extension from me by talking to me. What's the last day? It's Friday. 2 days. Friday, 11:59. Have it all turned in. And if it's something like test corrections where it needs to be turned in person, then it better be done by 3:30 because that's when I'm done on Friday. I know you're done at noon, but teachers are here till 3:30. We were told today that's the expectation. So you guys can be coming in and asking stuff even on Friday if you have questions. Let's go ahead and take a quick timeout, a quick pause, because let's talk about textbooks. I forgot to mention that when I'm up here. When I was up here in the end of the semester thing. Textbooks, you can return them today and or Friday. I'm hoping all the textbooks are in by Friday. But for right now, Sweetie is ready to mark off textbooks. Let's go ahead and pause. Do you have all the papers out, all the pencils, pens, markers, whatever you have in there? Book covers off, book covers off, book covers off. Thank you. And thrown away. And once all of that is ready, let's go ahead and girls, you can take, if you have your book here today, girls, take it back to Sweetie. If you have your books, girls, go ahead and take them back. Sophomore guys. Oh, we'll talk. We're not there yet. Sophomore guys, you can take your books back if they're ready to go. Book covers are off, papers are out, etc., etc. Sophomore guys, you can take yours back. I'm just spreading it out. I'm just spreading it out. People that are in different, Joey, your book is being turned in. People that are in different classes, you can do this with me as well. But just hopefully not during class. Hopefully like before class starts or after class starts, etc. Today, tomorrow, or Friday. Yeah, just make a stack. It's okay. Junior guys, if you have your book, go ahead and take it on back. And I think we've covered everyone. Girls, sophomore guys, junior guys. Okay. Let's get back to our seats. Coming back to Chapter 12 then. So these 3 are required. This one is a bonus homework, so it's 5 points out of 0 in your homework category. Would it be helpful? Yes. Is it good? Yes. Do some of you not have time for the practice final and this? I understand, so you choose. And that is Chapter 12, and then otherwise you just have what we did in Chapter 9. That's also on the final as far as 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. There are Jamboards in Chapter 9 because that's when I was out. I think there are Jamboards in Chapter 9. There are at least recordings, the videos that I posted in the stream. Remember, as far as the different content, but Chapter 12 was solely on Khan Academy. Sorry, I didn't show you. There were always links to all the videos I was having you guys go over and take notes on, etc. Besides that, I think the only other thing that I could do is a note check. If anybody has a really strong opinion, like I need a note check because I want a good grade on a note check, like I can make a note check for you guys, but I was like, at this point, you're just trying to get ready for the final. You guys good with me not note checking?
Cool. For chapter 12.
For chapter 9, 12.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No. No. Okay, so we have end of the semester things to figure out. Tutoring hours, P.S. Aren't there usually like you can only do this many hours off and this many hours on, and it has to be you helping and then you being helped. End of the day, to finish off this assignment, there are green papers up here if you, for some reason, haven't paid attention to this all semester long. At this point, I will give you the credit that I can for what you've been able to do. Either, I'm not saying and, I'm saying either being helped or helping. At this point, being helped or helping, they're both profitable, and even though I had certain restrictions, etc., some of you really fell off the bandwagon with stuff with APs, and it's just a sign of inexperience, immaturity. I don't know. It's just a lot of things. It's okay. It was a hard season, I know. But you're maybe like trying to play catch up. So I will try to give you the points as long as you come talk to me about like how have you been helped, how have you been helping. And maybe you've done both. Maybe you've only done one. Maybe you've done the other. I'll think about it on a case-by-case basis if you come talk to me or if you Google comment telling me what you think could count towards this assignment, and I'm kind of taking the restrictions away. Does that make sense? So, being helped and helping, I'll do what I can as long as you communicate. And if you don't communicate, it'll just be a 0 if you don't turn it in, and oh well. You need to learn to self-advocate. Cool? Cool. Speaking of self-advocacy, one more time. When is all the makeup work, late work, test corrections, homework, all that due? Friday, 11:59. If it needs to physically be in here, it's in here by 3:30 because that's when it's done. Unless you self-advocate and tell me you need the weekend. By Friday. Not like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Oh, I needed no, I need to know ahead of time because my grades are due earlier than normal. And I just need to know whose grades I can be finishing besides the final and whose grades I need to keep going on. Is that cool? Oh, you guys, the final will be done Friday too, so you guys will be done then, hopefully. But let me know if you need that extra time. By Friday. Any and all questions. Let me take any clarification you guys need on either end of the semester stuff and or chapter 12, chapter 9 stuff. Otherwise, work period. Andy.
On chapter 12, like 12.4, the bonus homework, I need help with like number 16.
Oh, cool. Then I'll get WebAssign up and ready to go. Questions can be specific, can be general, can be for the whole class, can be just for you. David.
Do you have a PDF of the tutoring hour sheet? Because I was tutored, but like the person who tutored me.
I believe if you go under, let's see, it would be your Google Classroom, it'd be class resources. Let's check. I think it's either or both in your shared drive and on my website, because you guys were looking at the beginning of the year before some people had Google Classrooms.
Thank you.
Blessings be upon you. Give me 1 second. There's either the tutoring info forms on my website, if you follow that link, or, I just have test corrections in here. I can go ahead, give me 1 second, I can go ahead and download this. I can get it into your class folder if that'd be easier. File download as. Either way. There we go. And then, there we go. And then you can just like email them or whatever. Is that cool? Cool. File. Got it. Got it. Okay. Last but not least then, I'll do one last call for questions. I don't know why the air's not on, I'll go check that too. But last but not least, remember, at the end of every grading period, anything that was missing became a, anything that was missing became a 0. It will not show up under missing in your Google Classroom. It became a 0 because it wasn't turned in by the end of the grading period. Can you still make it up by Friday, May 20th, 11:59? Yes, but you won't necessarily be able to find it unless you go look at all your grades, not just the missings on Google Classroom. The easiest way to do that is classwork, view your work if you're on your laptop, or take a note of this little icon. Those of you that aren't looking, I'm hoping that you know what's going on. Take a look at this little icon on your phone, classwork, upper right-hand corner, like the top of the page, you'll see this little icon. Click on that and you can go through and see all the scores you have in Google Classrooms, the zeros and the missings, just to make sure you don't have something to make up. Is that cool? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get that number, Andy, 16?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and get number 16 up for 12.4 homework. If you don't finish all of 12.4 homework, if you did finish some, go ahead and attach it. I can give you like partial bonus because it's just out of 0 points. Anything you get is a bonus. I'll go over number 16 and then I'll be available for spot checking notes, old notes, for answering questions on corrections, for helping you on the practice final if you get stuck. But otherwise, I'll put on music and we work and study and prepare. Sound good? Other questions? David?
Can I put like chapter 9?
Can you? For those of you guys that don't need this, awesome. Just work on what you do need and keep it quiet for a little bit, all right? For those of you guys that do need it, I am in section 12.4 web assigned homework. Shh, if you don't need this, you're being quiet. Thank you. For those of you guys that do need it /1, at section 12.4, looking at number 16, there are problems like this on the practice final if you guys want to check it out. Let me do that, let me do this. Okay. This would be the very end of the practice final if you want to find similar questions that are like this, and if you're not doing the 12.4 homework. But when they say to find the limit as n goes to infinity of a sub n, it's just like, well, who is a sub n? It's this guy. So of 3 over n times n plus 3 over n. Okay. The way it's written right now would be super messy to take a limit. If you guys remember limits to infinity, section 12.4, it's like horizontal asymptotes, these guys. Limits at infinity are like horizontal asymptotes, aka, for the most part, except for, if you don't need this, you're being quiet. It's like horizontal asymptotes, even though there might be some funny, like, extra things that you guys should have seen in Khan and the examples that he did, where it might get a little bit different. But for the most part, we're thinking degree tests. But degree tests might be messy the way this is written without simplifying. So if I were you, I think it'd be a lot easier to go ahead and just do some multiplication to look at what this really is, this expression. Maybe not really is, but what it is in a simpler way. So this would technically be n over n would reduce just 3 plus 3 times 3 would be 9 over n squared times n plus 1 all over 2. Which we could then simplify that a little bit more to be 3 plus, let's see, 9n squared plus 9n all over 2n squared. And I think this would be a lot easier to take a limit of. The limit of any constant is just itself. It is itself. I don't need to worry about it changing or moving. There is no n, there is no variable. These guys are just like the limits that you took with x's. They just have n's instead, but we're not plugging in infinity like we would plug in a number for direct substitution. We're thinking instead what happens as I go and have the n's get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And once again, degree tests like we did earlier in the year for horizontal asymptotes is basically what you can think of. The limit of a constant stays the same, and the limit of the other piece, question, does the top win, does the bottom win, or is it a tie? What's going on with degree test there, guys? It's a tie. With a tie, we take the ratio of the leading coefficients. So the overall limit is going to end up being, well, I would get a quick common denominator. 6 over 2 plus 9 over 2 is going to equal 15 over 2, which is exactly what you see right here as the final answer. 15 over 2 comes from this work right here. However, they also had you guys doing this numerically, and doing this numerically, they were like, okay, what if I'm not quote unquote at infinity? What if I'm just headed there? And headed there would be, what if n is 10 to the 0, then 10 to the 1, I'm having the n's get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, higher powers of 10, as one way to approach infinity, to get closer and closer and closer to infinity. So then all you would need for that, my advice to make life easy, would be to type in this little function as your y1. Instead of an n, it's going to have an x, but that's no big dealio. Because if I type it in here, I can plug in really fast and easy over and over and over again from my home screen. So I have 3 over n times n plus 3 over n times, I'm going to use my little fraction thing because now it's getting messy.
Is that is x plus 3 divided by x?
Because it's n plus 3 over n,
Okay.
right? So x plus 3 over x. And PEMDAS knows division goes before addition, so it's okay. I'm not trying to do something illegal. They are separate. What do I have? X times x plus 1 all over 2. Okay. And once you just type in that whole shabam, and you can, like, Andy, you could have made these nice pretty fractions. I was just lazy and didn't until here. Should have done one more parenthesis, I think. I have that, and I have this. There we go. Now here's where it gets cool. If you have it all typed in, if I go second, quit, plugging in just in general, I can do alpha trace y1, and I can refer to this guy over and over again. I can plug in 10 to the 0. I can plug in, awkward, sorry, there you go. I can plug in 10 to the 1. I can plug in 10 to the 2. And this is all you're putting in the table. But this is just me being lazy and not like having to plug it in over and over again or type it or copy and paste it. Or does that make sense? And what you should be seeing is this thing is getting closer and closer and closer to 15 halves, which is 7.5. Some of you are following along, some of you weren't. For those of you that wanted this, does that make sense? And if it does, if you want, you can head to the end of your practice final and go try the limits to infinity. Because they also are just saying, hey, let's go ahead and do a degree test. Yes, the correction folder is open and available if you guys want it. Is that the only one, Andy, that you guys needed from 12.4 that you know of?
Everything else is
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording then. If people come up with other practice test questions or homework questions, I'll answer them just in case it might be helpful for those of you guys that aren't live. But otherwise, we're just working and studying and preparing for Friday. I forgot I had like kind of customized number 15 and 16, and I think I kind of messed it up in the sense of the numbers changed, and so it gave you a different thing. On number 15, quick correction. I might add to this. But one correction that we found so far is number 15 should be, and I think I fixed it for the actual final, but you should be finding the 7th term, aka A7. Do you guys see how it says A5 on number 15? Change A5 to A7. It should be the 7th term, which would be 6 subtractions of 6, which would be minus 36, and 1 minus 36 is negative 35. Yeah. There might be a correction on number 16 as well. I'm going to look at that in just 1 second because it was also customized. If there is, I will add it to the correction as well. 16, the summation is fine. The 0 to 5 is good on number 16. What's off is the S sub, the nth partial sum. On number 16, you should be finding the, let's see, 6th partial sum, which would be aka S sub 6. Because you start at 0, not 1. So starting at 0 would be plugging in 0, plugging in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 things being added, not 5 things being added. That might throw you off a little bit. So those 2 kind of customized questions, I made them better for the final. It's just getting the right answer. It's not filling in blanks. Oh, hey, so one or both of them might be on the final. Anyway, couple quick typos that should help you make the proper matches.